This story of romance begins beyond the stars, in a distant universe. An advanced race of beings risk losing their planet and dispatch a great interstellar ship to search for a new home. To transcend its own universe, this ship, Chaos, separates into a fleet that, after significant struggle, discovers Earth. With their creators having gone extinct, these machines choose to settle on Earth, making an arrangement with the planet to look after the humans that worship them as gods. Among the fleet is the shooter-type interstellar fighter craft Artemis, an offensive machine known for its deadly cannons, shooting star Ortegia. Hoping to settle in among the humans, Artemis and her fleet adopt humanoid bodies called terminals. Having settled in the region of ancient Greece, they become known as the Greek gods. Their original machine forms, or aletheia, are never historically documented because, during a conflict called the Leukosmachia, they suffer a grave defeat against the titan Sephar. Their aletheia are destroyed, leaving the gods to live on in their humanoid forms. Living among humans causes them to develop human emotions and personalities. With these come lust and love, with many of the Greek gods seeking comfort in the beds of humans. Poseidon, worshipped as the god of the sea and earthquakes, takes a woman named Uriel as one of his lovers. Their passion results in a demigod child named Orion, a young boy graced with superhuman strength and the ability to walk on water. The boy grows up as a free-spirited youth, making a name for himself as Greece's best hunter. He fights as an expert archer, while using knives and clubs at close range. Even unarmed, Orion is able to strangle a lion with ease and crush the chin of Cerberus, scaring off even the most ferocious phantasmal beasts. Despite his strength, however, he is not a valiant hero. Living by his own tune, Orion is irresponsibly lazy. Beyond hunting, his primary concern is pursuing women as a passionate playboy. This vice brings him trouble when he treads across the ocean to the island of Chios. In a drunken stupor, he hits on Merope, the daughter of King Enopion. Angered, the king blinds Orion, removing his eyes before banishing him. Unable to rely on his vision, he rows out into sea on a small boat and follows the sound of a hammer. This leads him to the island of Lemnos, home to the god Hephaestus' mighty forge. Taking mercy on the blind hunter, Hephaestus escorts him to the east, where Eos, the goddess of the dawn, restores his eyesight. In that regard, while his promiscuity garners hatred, he seems to have a charm that women appreciate. As a powerful demigod, Orion is able to withstand most of these conflicts, but he is especially vulnerable as the target of a certain goddess. Artemis of the 12 Olympians has been worshipped as one of the Earth Mothers, a pure, virgin goddess inheriting the power of creation from Potnia Theron. Additionally, she is the moon goddess, thought to control the tides. Running parallel to her past as a deadly cannon, she is most famously known as the goddess of the hunt, truly unrivaled with a bow that fires arrows of pure energy. Even when her posture is improper, her arrows never miss. She demonstrates a unique blend of maternity and ferocity, demonstrated when she takes pity on a child, Atalante. Abandoned by her father for being a girl, Atalante is on the verge of starving in the wooded mountains when Artemis gifts her divine protection. With the aid of a sacred female bear, the child is provided milk. As Atalante grows up into a promising hunter of her own, Artemis passes down her bow Tauropolos. Along with her brother, the god Apollo, Artemis graces Atalante with her greatest attack, Phoebus' Catastrophe. Artemis is also the one responsible for teaching Chiron to hunt, spreading her talents to all of his students. As a virgin goddess, Artemis governs chastity and is the type to kill a man for peeking at her bathing in the moonlight. While traveling along the moon's path, however, she develops a soft spot for one man. From above, she observes Orion and his womanizing, and yet she falls in love with him all the same. Perhaps it is fitting that the goddess of the hunt adores Greece's most renowned hunter. It is especially odd given her lack of interest in men. Her only interest in romance prior came from a passion for stories. Certainly, she is beautiful, easily enough to entice Orion's affection. The two are definitely compatible in that regard, but even so, Orion is reluctant to love Artemis in the way he would any other woman. It is more profound, yet more distant, as he hesitates to take her hand. In truth, it is a matter of eternity. Because Artemis yearns to love Orion eternally, he becomes defensive, not wanting that kind of life for himself. He is not a god, and rejects the chance to become one as her lover. Thus, while his feelings are sincere, they manifest in a cold fashion. He refuses to abandon the things that make him human, the very things that allow Artemis and him to love each other so. If that means they will one day have to part ways, then so be it. Accepting this, Artemis makes a promise with him that should she ever encounter trouble as a goddess, that he will come save her as a human. Tales of Orion and Artemis's love spread to Olympus, with a rumor suggesting that they plan to marry. Defiantly, her brother Apollo forbids their relationship, demanding she put her feelings to rest. Affections do not change so easily, however. When she refuses to abandon her love, Apollo targets Orion directly, deviously crafting his demise. Disguised as a challenge, Apollo approaches Artemis, wanting to test her skill with a bow. From a tremendous distance, Apollo points to an indistinct figure in the water. It is Orion swimming, with his head barely above the surface. Apollo tells Artemis that the man is a scoundrel named Candaon, who has been attacking her followers. Confiding in her brother, she aims her bow flawlessly and strikes Orion down with one of her arrows. It isn't until the next day that she realizes what she's done. Hugging his body tight, she desperately looks for a way to bring her beloved back to life. The hero Asclepius is known for having found a medical cure for death itself. When she seeks him out, however, she learns that Zeus has already struck him down for rendering Hades' underworld irrelevant. Left with no other option, Artemis immortalizes Orion by ascending him to the sky as a renowned constellation. The stars identified as Delta, Zeta, and Epsilon make up the Tri-Star, or Orion's belt, while Betelgeuse and Rigel represent the rest of his body. Not only is Orion a legendary figure in his own right, but his myth also serves as inspiration for derivative myths of Robin Hood. Artemis, in turn, inspires William Shakespeare when writing the character Titania in A Midsummer Night's Dream. The two are most certainly recorded into the throne of heroes, should there ever come a need for them to protect the human order. Such a need arises when the demon god hivemind Getia incinerates all of human history. The Chaldea Security Organization, with its only remaining master, Ritsuka Fujimaru, ray-shift to various singularities in an attempt to undo Getia's attack. Artemis wishes to aid them in their fight, but as a divine being, she cannot be summoned as a heroic spirit in her fullest state. Seizing the opportunity to reunite with her hubby, Artemis limits her divinity by manifesting as part of Orion's saint graph, resulting in a servant that is both Artemis and Orion simultaneously. With the moon goddess's divine presence being so dominant, however, Orion winds up minimized in his own saint graph. Practically speaking, his once muscular body is transformed into a small bear, not even cute enough to be considered a proper mascot. In almost all respects, Orion defers to Artemis when it comes to their actual abilities as a heroic spirit. This means that Artemis takes point, fighting with her famous bow and arrows of light. She has 3 separate noble phantasms, the first being Tri-Star Amore Mio, moon goddess's arrows of love and romance. By concentrating her affection for Orion, Artemis fires off a tremendous arrow that devastates anyone standing in her way. As a bear, Orion is perhaps even less shameful when it comes to pursuing other women. He capitalizes on every patch of exposed cleavage, earning him a beating from Artemis at every turn. Nonetheless, her desire to love him for eternity goes unmatched, creating a comedic dynamic. Her second noble phantasm, Mikoto Shooting Star, piercing of jewel heaven, serves as retribution. To punish his infidelity, Artemis uses Orion as an arrow, firing him into the crotches of their male enemies. Artemis and Orion join Ritsuka during their venture to the third singularity, Okeanos. Their journey has them teaming up with Francis Drake aboard her ship, the Golden Hind, against the pirate Blackbeard and his crew aboard the Queen Anne's Revenge. Artemis and Orion are pitted against Anne Bonny and Mary Read, and to fight them, Artemis launches her third noble phantasm, Rapid Fire Ortygia, Rapid Firing Silver. Together, Ritsuka's party faces Jason to find the Ark of the Covenant. Along the way, Artemis and her devout follower Atalante meet in person. Given the circumstances, Atalante is shocked to see the more impassioned, romantic side of her favorite goddess. Upon Jason's defeat, Artemis and Orion are summoned as proper Chaldean servants, going on to help Ritsuka in their fight against Getia at Solomon's Grand Temple of Time. Despite never formally agreeing, Artemis insists that she and Orion are now married. Hoping to celebrate their honeymoon, she has Ritsuka and Mashu escort them through a ray-shifted France and America. On their path, Orion gifts her a ring pried off the finger of a Lamia they killed together. For as oddly romantic as this is, he of course ruins the moment by attempting to plunge his face into Mashu's bosom. He later uses their anniversary to escape and chase girls on the beach. While there is value in Artemis and Orion's bizarre teamwork as a combined servant, this form doesn't come close to doing justice to Orion's legend as the greatest hunter in all of Greece. In fact, his recorded legend qualifies him for a much more important role as the Grand Archer. As the pinnacle of the archer class, Orion is summoned by the counterforce to oppose Tamamovich Koyanskaya, who seeks to take shape as a beast of humanity. Further down in Chaldea's campaign to protect humanity, Ritsuka's crew makes their way to the Atlantic Lost Belt, a parallel world in which the Greek machine gods defeat Sephar with their original bodies intact. This is also where Orion, or perhaps Super Orion, is summoned to complete his duty as a grand servant. Initially, aiding Chaldea is not his goal, and he actually suppresses his grand status, waiting for the opportune time to strike. Instead of coming face-to-face with Koyanskaya, though, Orion actually bears witness to the Lost Belt's version of Artemis. Unlike the moon goddess he knows from proper human history, Atlantis' Artemis remains in her mechanical form as an orbital cannon. Her weapon, the shooting star Ortygia, can annihilate an entire island with each shot. She lacks any of the compassion and love of her proper human history self, instead acting as a weapon for Zeus, killing any servants hoping to bypass Atlantis and reach the subterranean Olympus. Many servants summoned by the counterforce try to oppose the gods, only to be struck down by Artemis's cold, calculated might. Orion witnesses this in grief, realizing how wrong this version of Artemis is. He questions what he can do for her, and whether he should do anything given his original purpose. Certainly, this orbital cannon opposes Ritsuka's efforts as well, and at first, Orion refuses to join the fight. Instead, he merely helps Ritsuka out of a harrowing situation by urinating on a group of monsters and then slaying them. Steeped in doubt, Orion encounters one of Artemis's various terminals that survey Atlantis on the surface. Originally, this terminal straight up prevents Orion from helping Chaldea, threatening to fire down the cannon and wipe out his home of Hestia Island if he doesn't comply. As she continues to observe him, however, she becomes interested in the world he came from. Through their exchanges, she learns about the drastically different version of herself in proper human history. Despite being enemies, Orion and the Artemis terminal grow close, enough for her to admit that her machine form is missing out on the benefits of a human persona. Thus, when the orbital cannon eventually targets Chaldea on Heracles Island, she teleports Orion there to help with the evacuation effort. When it's time to leave, however, she refuses to come along. If the two of them stay together, it will only help the cannon track them down for its next blast. Despite just being one of many terminals, she thanks Orion for treating her like her own person, and tells him he's precious when he smiles. After a tragic parting, the Artemis terminal remains on the island, caught in the explosion. When her data returns to the machine body, it gives Atlantis' Artemis a small taste of human emotion, but certainly not enough to cease her attacks. This traumatic experience convinces Orion to prioritize Artemis over his job as a Grand Archer. He joins Ritsuka, hoping to use his arrow to shoot down this uncaring, destructive god. As a humble servant, however, he lacks the means to even reach her. His main noble phantasm is Artemis Hagnos, moon goddess's innocent affections. Rather than an attack, Orion receives the blessings of his beloved goddess, turning him into a one-man army. Her devotion can be heavy, almost suffocating, but what would immediately kill a mortal man, he simply feels as a bit of muscle pain. In order to actually oppose Artemis, Orion requires more strength, which comes in two forms. First, his servant body is supplemented with Theos Cleronomia, the god's powers sublimated into nanomachines. Second, he needs a bow strong enough to send an arrow into space. In other words, to kill a god, he'll need his own divine construct. Thankfully, Ritsuka is aided by the remains of Hephaestus, who offers to make such a bow, so long as they can provide adequate ingredients. Ultimately, the armor of Achilles is used to construct the mighty bow Aegis Eclipse. With it, Orion can fire off another noble phantasm, Orion Horkos. No beast is beyond my arrow's reach. The Aegis Eclipse is forged with 2 arrows, meaning that Orion can only use this noble phantasm twice. Even if he had more arrows, the feedback from any more shots would be too much for his Saintcraft to handle. If he wants to win, he has to do it in just 2 shots. Orion and Artemis face off at Nemesis Island. His plan is to use the first shot to destroy her armor, leaving her core vulnerable for a second arrow. This optimistic strategy is thwarted when the second arrow collides with Artemis's beam. It's strong enough to penetrate the blast, but it loses so much momentum that Artemis remains unharmed. With no more arrows, and his body heavily damaged, Orion can only watch as she charges another attack. Ritsuka's remaining servants each give their lives, shielding everyone else from repeated shots of Ortygia. Then, the servant Paris decides to sacrifice himself to become a third arrow. Their only hope is for Orion to launch it to his own detriment, but if it's to save the woman he loves from a cruel existence, he's willing to put it all on the line. Finally revealing himself to be a grand archer, Orion renounces this privilege to shoot his most powerful arrow yet. It is Ortygia Amore Mio. He is the huntsman that pierces the goddess. By channeling his own love into the shot, along with Ritsuka's command spells, his arrow rips right through Artemis's beam, destroying her once and for all. On the verge of death, she glimpses the happiness of her proper human history counterpart, accepting this defeat as a symbol of Orion's undying love. Using Amore Mio breaks his spirit core, and as he vanishes, he warns Ritsuka that his intended target is still out there. His sacrifice here means that he cannot use his grand status against the beasts of humanity. Thus, even when Ritsuka summons Super Orion as a servant, he remains just an ordinary archer. Ultimately, there was no one better suited to defeat Artemis. Only a shot filled with his love could strike her down, and for this, she is grateful, proving that beyond his playboy mannerisms, he genuinely cares for her in his own way. It is this love that allows Ritsuka to press onward and depose Zeus in Olympus. By aiming his love at Lost Belt Artemis, he fulfills the promise he once made to his Artemis, the one who learned to value the very humanity they protect. Thanks for watching!
If you enjoy this channel, help us grow by liking, commenting, sharing the video, subscribing to OtakuDaiKun, and
most of all, smashing that notification bell so you don't miss out on all of our anime discussion, lore, or Let's Play content.
You can support us directly through Patreon, Subscribestar, or our YouTube membership, all of which come with benefits like exclusive vids and early access.
As always,
celebrate your fandom!
Hey guys, I want to go ahead and give a special shout out to all my $10 and up supporters. Video Gamer 75, C. James Torley, Stephen Elak, Samuel Gersten, Otaku Mom, Jens Bauman, Mystic Samurai 1983, Freebrick, Cosmonaut, RNG or Shuffles 1498, Alexis Yukio Gomez Yamato, Johnny Tsunami, Link Pendrago, Logan Pasquale, Caitlin P, Vladimir Rovna, Succubus Sakura, Normace, and SF Giants fan Mike. Thank you all so much.